Hello, welcome everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes as people flow in. Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. We already have 40, 41, 45 attendees. That's fantastic. All right. I think the numbers of attendees are slowing down slightly. We're at 7:01. Folks are still flowing in. Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. All right. 55 people. That's amazing. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I think I'll go ahead and get started. We're going to get started with some brief introductions and a very short PowerPoint. And then we will open it to open question and answer of the panel. So I'll get started by introducing myself. My name is Ariana Porter. You can call me Ari. I am the project manager at SWCA Environmental Consultants, hired by Travis County and the city of Austin to update the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And SWCA is a company that has worked on community wildfire protection planning for over 2 decades, and we're really excited to be working in the city and the county as well. So we're excited to be here and hear from you all tonight. I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves, so I'll run down the list here. Jessica, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am your webinar host, Jessica Sams. I'm a technical contact at jessica.sams at swca.com for the Zoom platform.
Thanks, Jessica. Vicky?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's really good to see this kind of participation. My name is Vicky Amato. I'm a principal planner with SWCA and supporting Ari and the rest of our team for this project. Thanks.
Thanks, Vicky. Jose?
This is Jose Cano, Spanish interpreter. Este es José Cano, intérprete español. Cuando ya esté encendido la interpretación, podrán seleccionar el idioma en español si así gustan.
Thanks so much, Jose. Pablo?
Mi name is Pablo Lino Ríos. I'm also a Spanish interpreter today. Me llamo Pablo Lino Ríos. Voy a ser el segundo intérprete para el evento de hoy.
Thank you, Pablo. Gracias. Ana?
Good evening. I'm Ana Urueta. I work with Austin Public Health as an emergency manager, overseeing the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ana. Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Graves. I work in Austin Emergency Management. I'm the CWPP Program Manager.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Dustin?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dustin Dunn, Wildfire Mitigation Specialist for Lake Travis Fire Rescue. I'm also the Executive Chair of the Austin-Travis County Wildfire Coalition.
Thank you. Glenn?
Hey, good evening. Glenn Gilman. I'm the Wildfire Mitigation Officer for the Travis County Fire Marshal's Office.
Thank you. Carrie?
Hey there, name's Carrie Hines, work for Texas A&M Forest Service. I am the statewide fire adapted communities coordinator.
Great. Liz?
Hey everyone, my name's Liz Hitzfelder. I'm the lead geospatial scientist here at SWCA for our Fire and Forestry Work Group. And I've been working on the modeling and the GIS for the CWPP.
Yep, thanks, Liz. Liz is also an Austin local. Luke?
Yeah, Luke Ball, Wildfire Mitigation Officer at Austin Fire Department.
Great. and Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Lurie, Environmental Program Coordinator, Austin Water, Wildland Conservation Division. I manage the Prescribed Fire and Fuels programs.
Fantastic. Just going to run through the list visually and make sure I didn't miss anyone. I don't think I did, but please come off mute and introduce yourself.
I am Chief
Jeremy.
Jeremy Trahan. I work for Travis County Fire Rescue ESD 11. I am over the Fire Prevention Division.
Thank you, Jeremy. Sorry about that. Now do I have everyone? Fantastic. Okay. So I'll run through our slides quickly here. So the purpose of today's meeting is to gather your feedback and give you information about the project. So it's going to be a very brief presentation, and then I want to leave most of the time for you all to ask questions of our panel. We are going to record the meeting. It's already being recorded. I'm going to ask that your microphones are muted at all times and the chat feature is disabled. So you're going to be submitting your questions via Q&A, and I will be reading those questions out loud to our panel and they will be answering them. You can click CC or show captions to turn closed captions on and off, and Spanish is available, so you can use the interpretation button with the globe symbol. Have some guidelines for you all. We ask that you be respectful of every participant, including the panelists during the event. So inappropriate or explicit language or hateful comments of any kind will not be tolerated. We might not cover everything in our hour tonight, so just listen and be concise. If we need to answer your questions offline, we will absolutely do that. So we can post a list of questions and answers to our project website, which I'll be giving you the link for if we don't get to everything. And I'll also be giving you my email, so you can email me and ask questions. And just know that failure to comply with these terms will result in you being removed from the event. So please just be respectful tonight. Okay, so let's get into the meat of it here. What is a Community Wildfire Protection Plan, also called a CWPP? A CWPP is a plan to reduce threats to life and property from wildfire. This came from the Healthy Forest Restoration Act, and that act said that CWPPs must be collaborative, so that's why we're here tonight, must identify and prioritize hazardous fuels treatments and methods to protect at-risk community. So a fuels treatment is when the vegetation or anything flammable is reduced to reduce risk. And the plan must identify measures to reduce structural ignitability. So measures to reduce the chances that a home catches fire or a structure. I really want to emphasize that a CWPP does not mandate or require anything. It simply assesses the risks and makes recommendations. It also sets priorities for actions and can set up the planning area for eligibility for grant funding to get the work done. Okay, next slide. I was just monitoring the chat there briefly. Okay,
Ari,
yeah.
just a moment. Please hold. I'm going to change your role to see if we can get the Spanish channel started. I've been unable to start this interpretation channel. Just a
okay.
moment.
Yep, no problem.
Sorry for our technical difficulties. Ari, can you see the, if you can click the interpretation button, can you start it now? Can you click start?
I'm just clicking the more button. I don't see the globe, Jessica. on my bar.
Okay, just a moment.
No problem.
You're the host. I've made you the host. Can you click start on the globe now?
Let me stop my screen share. That might help us. I don't have a globe, and I didn't from the very beginning. April says, under captions, does it show an option to switch to Spanish and language option? Oh, I see interpretation now. Do you want me to hit start, Jessica?
Yes, please.
Is that working now?
Yes, we've got a thumbs up. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for troubleshooting. This is why we have you involved, because this is certainly not my forte. I'm the fire gal. Okay. Alrighty. Vicky, can you verbally confirm you're seeing the big slide again?
Yes.
Great. So back to the guidelines of a CWPP. They must be developed collaboratively. So that's why we're here with local partners such as yourselves and key federal and state partners as well. And like I said before, community wildfire protection plans assess risk and prioritize potential projects, as well as ways to reduce structural ignitability. And I like to say that good CWPPs, community wildfire protection plans, are understandable, relevant, and actionable. So zooming in on Travis County and the city of Austin, the core team of stakeholders we've been working with, which is an amazing group, has set the following objectives for the project: to improve wildfire resilience and adaptation of Austin and Travis County, to develop actions to mitigate risks to human health and safety, to develop a CWPP with broad public and stakeholder input and support. So that's why we're here tonight. We really want to hear from you all, and we really thank you for joining us. Develop a CWPP that will serve as a source and guide for accessing funding, as I mentioned earlier. Implement a process to quantify improvements in resiliency over time. Integrate equity to engage a diverse audience, as diverse as possible. Align and cross-reference existing plans, such as the Hazard Mitigation Plan or other land management plans, and promote consistent wildfire risk communication and prevent any map confusion. All right, so I really want to emphasize this slide more than any other slide, so please write this down, grab a pen. There is a project website that we will be updating throughout the entire process. It can be found at cwpp-austin.hub.arcgis.com. And if you Google CWPP Travis County Austin Hub, this will come up. It's public facing. There is a link to the public survey for the project available. And it would make me very happy if you all could take this survey. You can also find it at publicinput.com/CWPP. Please send it to your friends, your community, your neighbors, anybody not here. We really want to hear from everyone. And the website, in addition to the survey, also has background information on the project, and we're going to update it throughout. So the website starts pretty slim with some background information, and then as we have maps and risk assessment information and project recommendations available, we'll be updating that website in addition with further public engagement opportunities. So some next steps in the project: we're going to be conducting a wildfire risk assessment, a watershed risk assessment. So if there were to be a fire, where is there the most flooding and debris flow risk? We're obviously going to be writing the draft CWPP for you all to review and comment on later, and we'll be doing continued public outreach. So that is what I've got for you all tonight. And then I'm going to turn it over to Q&A. My email is on the screen, and one of my colleagues will also put it in the chat for you all. I recommend that if you have any questions we don't get to tonight or that the website doesn't answer for you, that you reach right on out. We'll get you to the right person. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to stop talking and leave it open to Q&A. And so if you have feedback or questions, you'll click on that Q&A icon like I have a white square around on the screen. And you'll write your question. I will read it out loud and a panel member will answer it. If you want to ask a question in Spanish, you absolutely can with our interpreters, so they'll be helping us with that. And on the next slide, I've got some example questions just to get your thoughts turning, but I'm hoping that the questions will start to flow in. So I will stop sharing my screen. Well, actually, I'll leave up the examples for you all for a bit. I might stop in a bit. And I will start to look through the Q&A, which is already populating. Fantastic. So let me shuffle my screen around here so I can see everyone okay. Alrighty, so the first question, how is this program funded and is your funding stable? Who would be able to take that on the panel?
Yeah, I can take that one.
Thanks, Luke.
So the creation of the CWPP is funded between the city and county. The planning that is identified, the activities that are recommended by the CWPP will be funded then by available resources from both the city and the county and other stakeholders who are identified in the plan. This plan does not come with a budget to enact the plan. As Ariana said, it's not prescriptive, it is recommendations. So once this plan is in place, we'll follow through with that. This is actually a revision and an update for this plan that has been in place for 10 years. So part of the process is capturing what's been done so far with the budget we've been able to use in the last 10 years to see where our best use of resources has been, so we can continue that.
Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you for the question. Next question. What area will you do a wildfire risk assessment on? Who from the panel would like to answer that question?
I can.
Thanks, Vicki.
So we'll be carrying out sort of a twofold risk assessment. We'll be doing a desktop risk assessment that considers fuels, topography, historic weather conditions, and that's going to be carried out countywide. So the whole county is going to be evaluated for its wildfire hazard and risk. And then we'll also be doing some on-the-ground assessments. Our team will go out and assess potential structural ignitability, and those will be carried out in kind of the highest risk WUI or wildland urban interface areas, kind of at the direction of this panel.
Thanks, Vicki. All right. Next question. Are there any companies or organizations that can help homeowners assess and reduce wildfire risk on their property?
I will take that one.
Thank you.
So I think it's important to remember, or maybe learn for the first time, that reducing risk is a combination of actions, both firsthand accounts from wildland firefighters and now literal decades of research agree that the biggest actions to protect individual structures occur by modifying the structure itself in the first 5 feet around it. It's the ignition zone concept, home ignition zone or structure ignition zone as we're moving to. So a combination of structure changes with vegetation management, so that the structure change, unless any of my co-panelists want to hop in, I mean, there's some fairly small actions that, somebody who runs a handyman service could help you with. And when it comes to screening in vents, protecting wooden structures, making sure your roof is in good condition, items like that. Now, the vegetation management, people get really tired of us saying that it depends on what your end goal is. It depends on what the goal is on your property. Are we into wildlife habitat? Are we into pollinator habitat? The Leave the Leaves campaign, right? On the surface, oftentimes wildfire preparedness suggestions can seem to compete with some of the other environmental concerns that people have for their property. But we do have at a state level, we have been teaching certified arborists now for about 7 years through the Texas chapter of International Society of Arboriculture about wildfire preparedness. And there's a list on their website of arborists who have been through the wildfire risk reduction qualification course. So you can find people who have that environmental training and background who have also been through further wildfire risk reduction education.
Thanks, Carrie. Jeremy, did you have anything to add to that?
I just would say that there are private companies that do this within our area. I would also reach out to your local fire department, the fire prevention division, and ask them if they can assist you with that. There's also, Firewise USA is a great source through NFPA to look at and to kind of get a handle on what you're looking at for your defensible space at your residence. And simple, like was just covered, Carrie, simple stuff that you can do around the house to really make a difference.
Thanks, Jeremy. Next question. What connections have been made with surrounding counties and bordering cities?
I'll just say that the cities, any of the bordering cities that do go into Travis County have been contacted, and they're part of this, the program with the surveys, and the invitation went out to all of them to participate in this tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, my district personally goes into Caldwell and to Hayes County, so I work with them very closely during all different processes.
Thanks, Jeremy. Dustin?
I would just add that in general, the fire service takes the approach that fire knows no boundaries, and through agreements like auto aid and mutual aid, most departments are connecting with each other and essentially acting as one fire department to respond to all incidents that arise. But another sort of coordination that Travis County and surrounding counties have come together on would be through warncentraltexas.org. This is our means of warning folks about the needs for evacuations. It is a opt-in system, so if you're not familiar with Warn Central Texas, please take the time right now to log into that website and make sure that you're opted in so that you can receive those warnings in case there is an evacuation in your area.
Thanks, Dustin. There's a question that I'm not sure which risk assessment this person's referring to, but the question is, why isn't Barton View neighborhood designated as an extremely high-risk fire area? And I'm not sure which risk assessment this person might be referring to.
And if maybe we'll wait for an answer to come on specifically which risk assessment portal they're looking at. But speaking to differences in risk assessment portals, it's a question that's come up that I've dealt with now multiple times with Travis County residents. Travis County is lucky to have local capacity where they are doing their own risk mapping. At the state level, we have another risk map called TexRAP, Texas Wildfire Risk Assessment Portal. And then at a national level, you have another one that's called wildfirerisk.org. And depending on the data source and what features are being prioritized, yeah, the layers can look a little bit differently. Right now, for example, on TexRAP, we're actually about to change it soon. You guys are the first to know in the public audience. If you go to the what's my risk layer, it's actually not really a risk layer. It's your exposure, it's your potential exposure to what we would categorize as a very intense wildfire. So it's looking at what is the potential rate of spread and what is the potential for that individual lot to be exposed to flame lengths over like 12 feet tall. So when you're in an urban area, your rate of spread of wildfire is going to be lower because it's usually manicured grass, and your potential to be exposed to large flame lengths is also decreased because you're not near, I'm going to call them unmanaged fuels. You're in landscapes, managed landscapes. So, and I know that's different than, for example, a newspaper in Austin recently published a map that was, the caption was, neighborhoods listed at some level of high risk that are over 30 homes that only have one way in, one way out. And that looks different because of those different qualifiers. So depending on what the data layer is that is associated with the color that you're seeing, you could potentially be seeing very different results depending on which portal you're on. Additionally, depending on the scale, if you look at a national scale, a lot of Texas communities are going to rank a little bit lower just because it's in comparison to other places in the country. So it's variable.
Thanks, Carrie. Thank you, everyone. Ingrid, I see your follow-up, which is we are not posted on the posted map as high risk. And I look forward to going further through this process and developing the updated Community Wildfire Protection Plan CWPP maps and posting them for you all to look at and review and giving us your feedback on them. And I'm happy to talk to you about what the risk maps are showing in a few months as we get those developed. So we really appreciate your input. I see that there's a hand raised. Griffin, I prefer, so I can work in the list that the questions came in, that you put a question in the Q&A, but if you need to come off of mute, we can just put that in the Q&A and I'll absolutely get to you. Okay, next question. Are builders working in new developments being contacted for input?
I'm not sure the context of exactly of that question, input for exactly in what reference, but developers are permitted this pre-development meetings, and we definitely discuss all types of things, separation distances, the layout of the community, making sure they have fire, water. I know the city of Austin, I'm in the county, unincorporated areas. I know the city of Austin has different requirements for all that, a little more stringent on the type of materials they can build with.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's great. Okay, next question. We covered this a bit. What might be done about creating a list of individuals or firms prepared to offer affordable tree trimming, brush removal, etc.? Costs of these services seem like a major impediment to fuels management. Thank you.
So maybe not answering exactly what probably our asker wants, but you are exactly correct. Getting rid of debris is usually the hardest part of any sort of larger scale vegetation management. Obviously, a lot of the cities in Travis County do have some sort of green waste disposal occasionally throughout the year. Not enough to get rid of, whole whole lots worth of vegetation removal. The list that exists on the Texas ISA website is certainly a wonderful place to start. I hear you about affordability. This is going to be the part where you say, Carrie, that's not the answer I wanted you to say. And that's, it's one of the reasons that we encourage people to work together at a neighborhood level scale. Our chief mentioned it earlier, the FireWise program encourages neighborhood level action. And that really helps when it comes to sharing the cost of hiring an organization to come out. Instead of approaching a contractor and saying, can you come out and do my quarter of an acre? They have to lug all their people out there. That's going to cost more per whatever scale you're working at. If you can say, I have a full days of work for you, I have a full week of work for you because my neighborhood is banding together and we are combining the cost and getting that cost per area down. A lot of our FireWise sites will throw together for renting a chipper, right? They hire a company to come out with a truck and a chipper. They bring all their debris out from their private property and they get rid of it that way. So I know it's not a list necessarily, but encouraging community level action when possible to combine resources. Sometimes you might find, I know one of our new FireWise sites in Westlake, there's a guy who has a tractor. He has a little bit more land on his property, and it turns out he's happy to use it. He wants the excuse to come run it around. So he's gonna help out every once in a while. So finding what resources you may have in your community.
Thanks, Carrie. Matt?
Yeah, another thing I would add, I recognize that dealing with fuels, certainly on the private side of the fence, can be really daunting because the debris removal really is a huge challenge, even at an organizational scale, right? But the flip side is, I think a lot of the best benefit that you can get out of just working on your property and trying to make sure that you're in a good position to have a good outcome during a wildfire. A lot of that is going to be pretty close to your home. And so, if you're taking, if you've heard of the 0 to 5 zone and the 0 to 30, 5 to 30 areas of the home ignition zone, these are the areas around your home. So, within 5 feet and then within 30 feet of the building footprint of your home, where vegetation is going to have the most influence on your home catching fire. And so if you focus on that area and make some improvements, try to plant stuff that's going to be more resilient in the face of fire, native plants, but also removing stuff that doesn't need to be there, combustible materials near the eaves of your home, that kind of thing, that's going to result in much more favorable outcomes. So, there's a lot of, if you get into trying to manage at those big scales, that seems like it's going to get you what you need, but it's a never-ending game once you get into fuels management because everything grows back and you can get a lot more out of your investment if you have limited resources by focusing in those areas nearest to your home and doing what you can. And I think Carrie said earlier, it was a great comment, just we're talking a handyman budget when it comes to some of the things that make really, really meaningful improvements to your home's resilience to wildfire, vent screens and things like that. That's, a couple bucks at Home Depot and can go a really long way in exposures in your attic, for instance. So I would leave to some of the folks on the panel who deal more with, FireWise assessments and homeowners to get more into the weeds on that. But you can really get a lot of mileage out of just staying close to the building footprint.
Thanks, Matt.
And I'd also like to echo, if you're in the city of Austin Resource Recovery will come take a pretty substantial amount of vegetation debris from your house. They've recently changed their practices so it's on demand. Used to be twice a year, so you can schedule your work more around your schedule when you can get your material from that work directly around your home out to the front, and the city will come and take that away for you for free at your request. It also ISA was mentioned, and there is a list on the ISA website of arborists who've had specialized training for wildfire prevention, and those folks may be worth looking into primarily because they can be more efficient and effective at the work because they're familiar with what needs to be done. You wouldn't have to direct as much of that. They would be able to affect the vegetation manipulation around your house because they've already been trained on it, and also protect your valuable plants there from what might otherwise be ineffective or hazard harmful trimming.
Thank you, Luke. Alrighty. Our neighborhood, I don't know which neighborhood, only has 2 ways in and out, both only 2 lanes. How will first responders access the fire if evacuees are filling both lanes? Also, who will be in charge of directing the traffic? And do they have a plan in place? So we've got an evacuation question here, folks.
Yeah, I can take that. That's a good question, and you have 2 ways out, which is really good. That's typically the minimum requirement for a subdivision under the fire code. And during an emergency, this is some of the things that have come up on the West Coast, that vehicles just bombarding the roadway and first responders. So the idea for us is to have a controlled egress, that along with early egress, and also be prepared. When you sign up for Warren Central Texas, you get your notifications and then you leave. You're not waiting to the last minute. You're adhering to the warnings. You're leaving. And during that time, we're going to rely heavily on our law enforcement partners to ensure that we have access. If that's giving us a lane, if that's giving us one of the entry points, if there's 2 ways in and out, we take one, you take the other. But each individual subdivision is different, and we're just going to lean heavily on them. The evacuation order is going to come, from the fire department. There's several trigger points for that. The wind, the dryness, how long we have. But the idea is to give you as much time as possible for that controlled egress in emergency. But yeah, is there a plan in place? Yes, we do tabletop exercises just today. I've been in planning classes, and we're having these conversations about partnerships with law enforcement and their roles and our roles during emergencies.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Hi, thanks for doing this work. How do you suggest balancing mitigating wildfire risk with providing pollinator habitat, like leaving the leaves and dead stems for insect habitat?
I think I did that one to myself, didn't I, using those examples? Come to one of our classes. The very, very short answer is reducing places in the first 5 feet where embers and small flames can become larger. And oh gosh, and the other one, I had 2 in my head. Reducing place where in the first 5 feet, reducing place where embers, right? Oh my gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I just had an absolute brain wipe. It's the first 5 feet is really the most important. After that, it's the 5 to 30. The other one, the second one, knowing that anything that you do on your property to decrease what we call continuity, whether it's vertical connection of what could burn from small flames to taller flames, or the horizontal continuity where the flames can go forward towards the structure, anything is better than nothing. If you look at a lot of the websites, you're going to find national recommendations that say trim trees up to be 10 feet tall. Guess what? Some of our trees don't even grow to be 12 feet tall, right? Or absolutely no vegetation within the first 5 feet. If that is not an attainable goal that you have for your property, reduce it to the first 2 feet around your property. Maybe you have vegetation around your property, around that first 5 feet, but it's really well irrigated, it's low growing, and it's not next to anything else that's combustible, right? It is all the risk reduction. Austin Fire Department and other places call it the good, better, best. We have what our national recommendations are. We can give you a step down from that, and we can give you another step down from that.
Thank
It's a
you.
short answer.
No, that's great. Okay. Do you expect that this plan will generate any funding that would help a neighborhood with fuel mitigation?
It's not always about generating funding, though of course we can hope that that's what eventually comes out of it. And sometimes having these established plans can open up national pots of money that are usually extremely competitive. But the true goal of the CWPP we saw earlier in the slides is prioritizing actions. So there are resources currently available. Travis County has the highest quantity in the state of people working at a local level towards things in community wildfire preparedness, whether it's your ESD firefighters who are taking my class to learn about communicating risk reduction, whether it's, we have people with Austin Energy, Austin Water, you have Travis County Parks, there are so many people who are working in wildfire preparedness in this county. The CWPP should and will help guide those actions and the guiding of that work into the future.
Thanks, Carrie. Okay, great. Okay, I am sorry if I mispronounce. Treviso has a disconnect between landscaping requirements and the Firewise 0 to 5 foot border recommendation. Williamson County requirements are also in place because we are covered by Lander Fire. How can we get help to manage these discrepancies?
So to clarify this question, it sounds like their neighborhood requirements for landscaping in that 0 to 5 foot border. I'm not sure how to clarify that. But that's in conflict with Williamson County requirements. I'm not sure there.
We can ask
like it's been stated, whatever non-flammable or the least flammable vegetation and landscaping materials as possible in that 0 to 5 feet from the home has been shown to be the most effective for mitigation of embers and fire near the home envelope.
Thanks, Luke. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that if you want to clarify anything, Mark, definitely feel free and I'll watch your question come in and get to it.
I can add on to this question as well. So recently I worked with Steiner Ranch as well as the city of Lakeway to help change some of their architectural guidelines and landscaping ordinances that they both had that were in opposition to the sort of Firewise landscaping or the IBHS immediate zone around the structure sort of standards. Ultimately, that is a conversation with those local officials who have authority over those ordinances and architectural guidelines, and just working towards changing them to something that allows for those Firewise changes to be made. And you would likely find that many of those folks who are in those positions are more than happy and willing to work on those things, and they may just not be aware that it's an issue or that they have the power to change that or any of those sorts of things. So again, kind of coming back to Firewise as a whole, this is a community effort, and if you come together as a community, you can start to solve these problems.
Thank you, Dustin. We have a clarification at the bottom. Landscaping program did not take fire resistance into account. We are trying to push this problem forward with the county, MUDs, and the HOA. Okay. Next question. Is there any financial support for low-income, fixed-income retirees? Often they have the highest risk, the least mobility and capability, and frequently have had to stop insurance coverage due to the rising costs of insurance.
I will answer this question. So while I don't know of any specific financial support for low income or fixed income retirees, oftentimes those are the individuals that experience the highest risk when it comes to an incident like a wildfire. And so, although I don't have any specific examples of funding sources, I will say that we have been working really hard to identify ways in supporting people that might fall within that category. One of the ways that we've been working to support is making sure that we have a way of understanding where people live that are experiencing higher levels of vulnerability. And so if someone has any access and functional needs like mobility impairment or there's any sort of barrier that might prevent them from being able to safely evacuate, I would encourage them to register on the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry. While this doesn't guarantee that they will be prioritized and being evacuated or that there's any specific support that will be provided to them, it gives us some situational awareness of where individuals might live that might need a little bit of extra help during an evacuation. But also it's really important for them to register on the Warn Central Texas to receive alerts. Dustin had mentioned that earlier. And then just really making sure that they have an evacuation plan in place. And so whenever something does happen, they do know where their medications are going to be and where what their if they have ideally a go bag ready to go that has all of their necessary things that they need to be able to quickly leave. So although I'm so sorry I'm not actually answering your question, I did want to take that as an opportunity to say that there's some plans, some steps that individuals can take to make themselves more ready to be able to respond, including registering for that STEER. And we've been working a lot within the city and the county on identifying really effective ways to be able to prioritize where and how we message to those individuals, and how if we can use that data to also prioritize who gets support.
Thanks, Anna.
Ari, I've got one other comment on that as well. You can sometimes get double duty out of different rebates. I think the one example that comes to mind is the Austin Energy's winterization assistance program. There might be some overlap there with wildfire preparedness, basically. If a home is resilient against cold weather, if it's sealed properly, if the insulation is in good shape, all of those things are going to benefit you in a wildfire and prevent embers from getting established and getting into nooks and crannies in your roof, say, or in your siding. So if that one weatherization assistance program comes to mind because it's pretty there's a big overlap with some of the things that we recommend to get keep your home safe from wildfire, but there might be others out there. And with some creative just looking through the different programs available, you might see some opportunities.
Thank you, Matt. I will add that through the CWPP process, we'll be producing a homeowner's guide. So SWCA will be working with the core team of stakeholders to identify resources for homeowners, and we'll also be identifying potential funding sources to go along with any recommendations that we make. So stay tuned. And we'll be posting any resources we have to the website I mentioned. Okay. Folks on the panel might want to read along with me here. It's a bit of a longer one. I'm in ESD 10, which is an ETJ. We are an extremely high risk area, and there is no concrete evacuation plan in place, nor a neighborhood-specific alert system. There are only two ways out of our neighborhood, and those roads are very narrow with no shoulders. If a wildfire breaks out and everyone attempts to evacuate in their vehicles, the roads will be blocked and first responders won't be able to get to the fire. Additionally, there are no backup generators to keep the water pumps running, so when electricity goes out, water is not available to fight fires. This happened during the freeze and homes burned. Are ETJ areas like ours considered in these plans?
Wasn't sure if this is Jeremy. Wasn't sure if somebody wanted to jump on that. Kind of answered the last one. It's very similar to this, but if anybody has anything to add.
I'm thinking of, across the state, across the country, these are situations that exist everywhere, right? Our most of our communities, especially in Texas, and this is really, I'm not necessarily answering multiple people's questions here, but it's getting to it. We live in a private property rights state, a private property rights state that enjoys, less ordinance oftentimes than other parts of this country. And part of that means that, not necessarily Griffin, you here, but some of our other questions that are coming up, that unless there's a very specific city rule that can be referenced or an HOA rule, there's often very little ability to make anyone do anything. And that includes sometimes the way that our neighborhoods are laid out outside of the basic fire safety codes that come from the state level. Of course, Travis County does have its own fire marshals and does have its own rules that come with that, unlike some of other counties across the state. The no concrete evacuation plan. I know a lot of people call up their, let's say, their local fire department, local law enforcement are the ones who are going to be the ones actually doing evacuating. Law enforcement does evacuations. Fire departments can just help call for them and say, what's our plan? And unfortunately, like my last answer, very often is it depends, which is not a very reassuring answer. I know when you're a public resident, you want to know where you're going and how long it's going to take to get there, and which stop sign you need to turn at. And while we can, and Travis County absolutely does have public sheltering locations identified and has their major right-of-ways and pinch points mapped out, that exists. But the way that you are going to be going in case of an evacuation is going to be completely dependent on which way the fire is coming and where we expect it to go. So we cannot for sure tell you exactly like in hurricanes, your evacuation route, the hurricanes are going to be coming from the coast. So you're going to go the opposite of the coast. With fire, we can't be that specific.
Thanks, Carrie.
Ari, I'd like to add in on that. I know this is a county example, but we've had several discussion or questions about evacuation. And I know within the city, we just recently did a public presentation over the city's evacuation plan in the City Park neighborhood. Now, if any neighborhood within the city would like another presentation like that, the pathway to get that is to contact the Austin Emergency Management Office. They can arrange to do a similar presentation and inform you about evacuation steps for evacuation and how these considerations are taken into. Also, each county is required to have an emergency management office and emergency management plans. So there are plans in existence. Oftentimes they're poorly communicated, but they are in existence. So if you have concerns, please contact your emergency management office and they can help you, or your emergency management personnel within your county, city, and they can help you with that information.
Thanks, Chris. I would like to emphasize that this CWPP update covers all of Travis County. So any community within Travis County will be considered in the plan. I want to make sure we got back to that question. Okay, we have about 6 minutes left. I would like to emphasize that if we do not get to your question tonight, but you entered it in the Q&A, we will be answering it and posting written answers to the website. So please check back on the website if you registered tonight and we didn't get to your question. Okay, so next question. I know a few years ago we did a fire drill along Comanche Trail involving several different first responder groups. Is there any plans for that in other areas?
I can take that. So the fire marshal's office did coordinate that, and they do still have that as an available program. If individuals can generate sufficient support within the community, there is an application process, and that's on the Travis County Fire Marshal's office site. I would like to just take a moment here and just identify a few things. So we haven't talked about, there's been a lot of questions about evacuations and fuels management, and I just kind of want to highlight the fact that homes have an 85% survivability if they have a non-combustible roof and a yard, essentially 30 feet of space. So most of what we're talking about, we have already, and we're talking about improvements above that. Secondly, just talking about evacuations, we also haven't lost a life in Travis County from wildland fire in 30 years. So although it is a risk, there's other higher risks. From an evacuation standpoint, I think making sure that you recognize you making a rapid decision and implementing action is your best course of action. It's more of an escape than an evacuation. So just a couple points on the relative risk that I think is important, but we'd love to help people with evacuation planning, and that's available on the fire marshal's site.
Thank you, Glenn.
I would also add that in general, fire departments are starting to get away from doing fire drills as they are extremely time consuming, resource intensive, and often are not very instructive on how it's actually going to be on the day of. So leaning more into using a data-driven approach, using software like Genesis is becoming more of the norm, and I think you'll see that more frequently throughout the county.
Thank you, Dustin. Great. Okay, let's call this our last question. And someone can answer Griffin's question about Genesis software. It's spelled a little bit differently. Are drones ever utilized to scope out an area where a fire originates? Last week I was out walking, smelled smoke. Soon fire engines came into the neighborhood and firefighters were getting out of the trucks and walked into various backyards, hunting for the source. Then they would move around the block to go into other backyards. Wouldn't drones be more efficient?
So
You got that,
I
Doug?
would say, yeah, I got it.
Go ahead.
So it depends on the department and their capacity for unmanned aerial vehicles. They're certainly becoming more and more common in the area. And as I had mentioned earlier about mutual aid and auto aid, they can be used regardless of department as well. So they're definitely being used more and more frequently for this case. But we also have, thanks to the city of Austin, all of the Pano AI cameras that are being used as well throughout the county that are giving us pretty amazing triangulation on where these fires are and are definitely making an impact on our local response speeds.
Thanks,
And I'll
Dustin.
just echo on Dustin. I used the Pano camera just this morning to identify an illegal burn in my area, and we do have our UAVs flying during wildfires. It's a great ability. It has thermal on it. It shows that you have the hot spots that are still lingering around. It's an amazing asset that technology has brought us.
Jeremy. All right. 7:59. Carrie, did you have anything? I see you're off mute before I wrap up.
No, I was going to talk about drones, but can I just do Alice's real quick? I know you said last question, but how do communities enforce ordinances? If there's an actual ordinance, reach out to your community about it because but most communities do not have, and I know Travis County is sometimes special with that, but most communities don't really force residents to do a lot of things on private property. But if that's a completely up to your community that you live in, the authority having jurisdiction answer.
And also, I'll jump in there real fast. This state law, health and safety code, has requirements on how high grass can be, and that's sometimes we have to use that with code enforcement with the county to enforce that state law.
Thank you, Jeremy. Fantastic. Carrie, did you have one more thing? Or are you good?
No, I just need to take myself off of live.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. All righty. Well, it is 8 p.m. Eastern time for me, so that means it's probably 7 where you are if you're in Central Time. And I am really excited at all the engagement we had tonight. Such great questions, and a big thank you to our panelists for answering those questions. We can't do it without you. And we are going to answer any remaining questions as well as the example questions in writing on the hub site. So please check back. This is the beginning of lots of public engagement on this project, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you. So please visit our website and take our public survey. And I hope everyone has a fantastic evening. Thank you very much. I believe Jessica will end the event now.
You have the host role. Go ahead and hit end.
Okay, great.